Welcome back to Momestly Me. Today is going to be our introduction into a segment we are calling Humanizing Mom. So several months ago, I talked to Melinda quite a few moms, honestly, that just basically to have conversations about negative experiences or emotions that we may have had about being a mom, whether it was doubts or just fears, as well as negative things that we thought about ourselves, whether it's physically or mentally. And I realized that, at least for me, I know when I was pregnant and even first after my son was born, I really didn't feel like there was a lot of content out there for moms that was real. And what I mean by real is something that really dives into, what it feels like, what it's like for us to experience things. Because you celebrate babies, and we absolutely should. Babies are amazing. The things that we can do to create and grow life inside of us are amazing. And the bond and the things that we get to experience when they're outside of the womb, all of those things are phenomenal. But I think because we are still transitioning from a society where talking about pregnancy and being a mom wasn't really a thing, I think a lot of times we feel like we just have to keep those negative things in. So I experienced a lot of my own negative things that I dealt with. I found that a lot of moms that I knew felt similar things or had their own experiences, and a lot of them said the same thing. I really didn't feel like I had this content available to me. I didn't have articles to read that weren't more than, 5 paragraphs with 35 ads in them about the reality of being a mom. And that's not just a new mom. That's being a mom, when you're pregnant, postpartum, when you have multiple children, when your kids are grown. And even if they, when they grow up and they leave the house, there's just a lot of feelings and things that come with being a mom. And it changes so much of our day-to-day life that it changes so much of how we think about ourselves and the world around us. So I decided that I finally wanted to do something about the fact that this content didn't exist. And so I'd been talking to Melinda, and we decided this was something we wanted to do together. We both had a passion for it, and we knew moms that had struggled really hard to either have children or to carry children, to give birth to children, or still struggling even now. And, my sister's a good example. She is a teenager, and she struggles every day with being a mom for different reasons. So we basically got together and decided, okay, we're doing this. So this is our big introduction to our channel. It's going to be our segment, Humanizing Moms. How is your journey as a mom? So I am the very proud mother of a slightly over one. I'm not going to do the months thing. I just don't say that. Yeah. So I do have a 15-month-old son. Honestly, I think that the craziest thing for me, I actually didn't feel, so a lot of people have told me, when I first found out I was pregnant, it was, oh, just wait till you hear the heartbeat. It's going to be so real at that moment. And that didn't happen for me, and I thought it was very bizarre. I remember asking my husband, I was like, did the heartbeat change anything for you? Like, when you heard it, were you just like, oh my God, it's real? And he kind of said, not really. I'm sure it's different for men. And even after like the first kicks, which my kicks were late, it was a first time pregnancy. Like, I didn't feel them until pretty late. Later than the average or what's normal, and I just kept waiting for that like aha moment of, oh my God, this is real. I have a baby. And I honest to God, I don't think I ever hit that point. Yeah. I think the closest thing to that moment, and this is so silly, the closest thing to that moment that I ever met in my mind was, I was in my second trimester, I would say probably close to the end. And at that point I had been coasting. Like I had some of the basic stuff. I had 1 day of morning sickness, but I think I figured out what caused it, so I didn't have it anymore. I never had any issues. My pregnancy until the very end, because he was huge, was cake. Like I didn't even start showing until I was 6 or 7 months pregnant. And so, but I remember being in my second trimester and watching The Office. And there is an episode, spoiler alert, the show's been out, so you should know this if you've watched it. There is an episode where a certain couple have a baby, and the mother goes into labor. And after that episode, I was traumatized. I was so
Yeah.
scared of labor. Come to find out later, that was totally fair for me to be afraid of it. But so I basically got to this point where I was like, I don't want to do this. This is terrifying. I don't want to do this. It's going to hurt
Right.
so much. And, you know, and so the good thing about that is as that process, like that was my only like real moment that I had, which felt a little weird because everyone was like, really? It's not weird. Like everybody kind of made me feel like I was weird for feeling that way, but it just wasn't real to me. I mean, as my belly's growing, I can see him beautiful on that awful screen. And it's like, I know that he's there. He's coming. Like there is no like, it's almost like expecting to go every time and then telling you like you have a false positive. It's really weird. It's a really weird emotion. And so I remember, like after that happened, I got to my third trimester, and once he dropped, I didn't care when he like labor. All of my fear of labor went out the window because I just wanted him out. He was so heavy, and I could barely walk, and I was so miserable at the end. And then, you know, my labor experience was pretty rough. I delivered natural in terms of as a vaginal birth. I didn't say no to the pain meds. I had pain meds leading up to it. They just never worked. They gave me a couple of different things. They lasted for less than 10 minutes. And then I was in horrible pain again. And so that part was hard. And then apparently it went by kind of quickly for me, which is odd because normally when you're uncomfortable, time drags. But so I actually pushed for 3 hours, which is not typical. And I didn't know that that's how long it had been. It honestly felt like an eternity, but in a different way. But it felt more like maybe, I don't know, maybe like 30 minutes.
Sure.
Because that all that stuff is kind of a blur. But so my labor was really hard. I did 2 epidurals. Neither of them worked. I felt everything, or at least most of everything. If they did work, it was very minimal. And I remember when the doctor told me, you know, use your contraction to push. And I looked at her and I said, are you kidding me? Like, I wanted to go to sleep. I just wanted him out, but I didn't want to do the work that was required.
Right.
So, and then
You're
of course,
exhausted.
oh my God, so exhausted. And so I remember, like, you know, it's so crazy. I remember the most fascinating part of being a mom by far, other than the fact that he's here now, is like the moment he was out, all of the pain stopped instantly. So, you know, if anyone ever makes you doubt what you're capable of as a mother, like, our bodies, when it comes to having children, do amazing things. And so, and after that, I think I was fortunate enough that my first 2 weeks home, I took 6 weeks off from work. My first 2 weeks home, my husband was home with me, took vacation time because his company doesn't offer paternity leave. And I think I did okay in the beginning in terms of I didn't feel anything that I thought was odd or weird. But I do remember there was one night in particular, he had gone out to walk the dog and he came back up. And in the time that it took him to go downstairs and come back up, I was standing in the kitchen and without knowing why, I just like burst into tears. And I remember going over to him in the door and just making him hug me. And he was like, oh my God. He's like, what? You know, what's wrong? And the baby was asleep, not a care in the world. And we had such an easy baby. And he asked me what was wrong. And I said, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. It was all of a sudden, I was just very overwhelmed with the amount of change that was in our lives. And the only way that I really coped with that was originally we wanted him to get used to sleeping in his crib, but it was a little early for that for us. But there was a bed. We had our queen size bed in the second room in our apartment, which was his room, and then we had our room. So we were going to stay on the queen bed in his room for the first several nights or for however long, but that was so different. So like sleeping in there was different. Our house looked different because we had all this baby stuff. Neither of us were working, so we were home, so that was very different. We had a baby, that's obviously different. Like, it was so much change that all of a sudden I questioned whether I could do it or not. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I need my normal, I need my, like, the way that things were before. And, I think, like, I only struggled with it in terms of that for that one night. And I'm so grateful that he was even able to be home, because if I had felt that by myself, it would have taken me a lot longer, I think, to kind of bounce back from. So then over the course of those next several weeks, by this time I had a mom belly. I had, he got so big so fast that I had these horrid red stretch marks everywhere. They were way more than I'd ever seen on anybody else that I knew that had been pregnant. And it was coming from a history, or at least my past, where I've never struggled with self-image. I'd never had marks like that. I mean, I had marks, right, but they weren't like that. And definitely not that bright. And I now had a body that I didn't understand or know anymore. I did breastfeed at that time, so there was a lot going on, and I really just I didn't really I couldn't stomach looking at myself. So we had very big mirrors in our bathroom in the apartment, and I hated it. I was like, oh God, I hated just even looking at myself. And it gave me this weird complex about my body. And I struggled with it because I am very body positive. I believe in empowering women to love their bodies no matter what shape they are. And then there I was being so hard on myself after just having a baby. And even though I can rationalize that in my head, I couldn't rationalize it in the moment to be enough, stop being this way. This is ridiculous. And that was really hard for me. And then I wasn't really paying attention to this. It's kind of funny. I wasn't really paying attention to this at the time, but I had started going on one of my favorite sites that I go to for clothes, not since having a baby, because they're expensive. But I found myself going on there and buying a bunch of clothes. And some stuff was, I wanted to have a little bit more of a professional look when I went back to work, because I was very sneakers and t-shirts and blue jeans at the end of most of my pregnancy, because I was so tired all the time, and who cares. But so, I wanted to have a little bit more of a professional look, and I wanted to jump back into the career thing. And then I got stuff for future date nights whenever we would have time, and things that I thought would make me feel good, because I knew, underneath all of that I didn't feel good in my own skin. I didn't like the way I looked. I was really struggling with it. Yeah. And I started buying all this stuff. And I remember one day my husband says, in a playful manner, because I don't say anything to him about the packages he gets. So he said, how many packages do you have coming from this store? He's like, I feel like you've had so much. So I went back and looked at my credit card for that site, and I was like, ooh, okay. And so the purpose of saying all that is that moment when he brought up the packages, I really started to think about the fact that I was buying a lot of stuff that I don't normally buy. I normally buy a few pieces here or there, but I definitely don't buy in bulk when I'm shopping, least of all for things that are on the pricier end. And I was just like, why did I buy all of this stuff? And it took me several days of just thinking and trying not to be sleep deprived with a new baby at home. And because this is over the course of that other 4 weeks after the initial 2 when he was home with me. This was still before I went back to work though. And I basically just came to the conclusion that the reason that I was doing it is because I felt like I needed it. I felt like I needed it to feel like a woman. I felt like I needed the clothing, certain ones in particular, to feel sexy, because I didn't. And I think in that moment, I realized that it wasn't actually all of those superficial things. It was a mentality. It was a mentality about all of a sudden, my purpose was to take care of this life that I created or helped to create. Mm-hmm. And I struggled a lot with this concept of identity and wanting to feel like myself, like a wife, like a partner, like a friend, as like a person with goals and dreams and ambitions. And it's not that being a mom was somehow less important or mattered less in any way, because I wanted him for a really long time. And I mean, at the entire time that we were in the process of trying to get pregnant, every negative test was a heartbreak. And I really struggled with it. I struggled with this concept that I can be a mom, but I felt like in those moments that was all that I could be, that I wasn't allowed to be any of these other things, because now my only purpose was raising a child. And I can honestly say, so we're 15 months out, right. I can honestly say that I don't struggle as much with that. We were getting ready for videos the other day, and Melinda made a joke that she was like, oh, this is so backwards. Normally you're going through all my makeup because I have so much more. And I also have a substantial amount more of jewelry. I have expensive things that take care of my hair. And all of that comes from this need to feel feminine and sexy and attractive, because in addition to struggling with the way that I look when I'm not dressed, I struggle with still wanting to be something other than just a mom, because for some reason it is in the back of my mind, and maybe it's a society thing, I don't know, but it's drilled into the back of my mind that like, you can't be those things if you're a mom. You can't be sexy. You can't you can't wear makeup and wear bright colors on your lip, and you can't go get your nails done, and you can't, like, there's just this weird energy that makes you feel like if you do those things, that people are going to think that that's more important. And I think that, so I struggled greatly with that. And then I was very, 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 very lucky in all of my stages so far, because not only have I had a phenomenal support system, I also have a very easy baby. There are definitely, I don't know what I would have done in those moments if I was having all of this self-doubt about who I am, and God forbid he had something seriously wrong, or he was, colicky or any of those things. And we were just very lucky, and we're still lucky. He's so great, and he would have been great no matter what, but him being easy has made all of those transitions like phenomenally easier for me. So, and I still struggle. My redness has faded substantially. Obviously, you moisturize, those marks heal and they fade, but they're still there. They're very present. And, I actually asked my husband the other day, and see, this is, we really shouldn't ask these questions, because especially if we know that we are looking for something specific that they may not say, and that's not fair. No. So when I asked him this, I had a specific answer that I wanted, which I try really hard not to be that. And I asked him if he thought that I was less attractive, or if he was less attracted to me now that I have the mommy belly, and I haven't toned, and I've gained weight back, and those types of things. And he definitely handles these things the best way that he can. It's like asking your husband if he thinks your friend is hot. Like, just don't ask the damn question. So I asked him, and he took a second, which he's allowed to do, and he thought about it, and he said, it's not that you're less attractive. I've always been attracted to you, and I'm attracted to you now. It's just maybe a little bit different now because it's for different reasons. I can't remember exactly what he said, but the short version is I knew better than to ask those questions, because I had a specific answer that I wanted. And the answer is, of course not. You're just as fine as you were when we met, which is ridiculous because I'm not. The pant size has changed. There's things that have changed, but I think I took a couple of days after we had this conversation. This was actually just a couple weeks ago. I took several days, and I realized that it's okay that it's different. Like, it's okay that I'm not this like super, not super, but this smaller, flatter, more tight version of myself. That was 6 years ago. That was a baby ago. Like, none of those things. Stuff changes, and it happens, and
it's okay.
And it's okay. And it took me time. It took me a couple of days after he said that, because I felt bad. I felt like garbage when he said that. And he, in all honesty, like, he has every right to be honest about how he's feeling, and I should never have asked without wanting the truth, because I actually don't believe in that. I believe in being honest. Yeah. And if you don't want to know the answer, don't ask. So, but it did take me a couple of days to kind of get past that. And I finally got to this place where I was like, but it's okay that he's attracted to me in a different way. Like, it's okay to be sexy because you're a mom. And it's okay to be attractive because you provide for your family. Or it's okay to want to be intimate with someone because they did something like make dinner for you. Like, those types of things are okay to be attracted to someone for. And I think, like, I still struggle with that. I think it's going to take me probably a really long time to get over the image stuff. But I think those were my biggest things. Was I struggled so much with identity. The typical superficial stuff, I really didn't like my new body. And I hear about so many women that are like, no, I love my body. I birthed 3 kids with my body, and these are my tiger stripes. And that is so inspirational, and I admire those women so much. I just don't have that in me. So that's been one of the biggest things. Yeah, I don't have it in me yet.
Hey moms, thanks for stopping by and checking out this installment of Humanizing Moms. If you like what we're doing, let us know by hitting the like button or commenting below. To check out more of the series, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to get notified when the next installment is up. Thanks again for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.